Hello beautiful people, thank you for joining me on the channel Life After Narc. I hope you like the channel. If you do, please click the like button on the video and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell if you'd like to be notified of any upcoming videos. So I talk on this channel about narcissism, narcissistic relationships, toxic relationships and abusive relationships. These are all from my own perspective. And the videos are for entertainment and information purposes only. If you do need help with any of the items discussed, please see your doctor or any other specific practitioner or person who can help you. So today's video is called Prince Thorn and the New Maiden Citrine. Now, as you know, I speak from a woman's perspective of dealing with the narcissist. As the narcissist being a male. This is from my own experience and perspective, but it can be changed around. So here is this little fairy tale, and I hope you enjoy it. 2 years before Princess Rose's father, the king, passed, she had received interest from an old flame, a potential lover. He wanted to be with her, but because she was married to Prince Thorn, she couldn't entertain the idea. She was loyal and loved her husband, the prince. Even though there were occasional problems, she believed in the vows they had made in front of the goddess and god. Time went on, and as we know, the king became ill and passed away. Princess Rose had been caring for him until he breathed his last. Prince Thorn, however, had been looking for a way out. He wanted out of the relationship. As he was a narcissist, he was unhappy, as he realized this communion was not what he wanted. He was not receiving the attention he wanted, the supply he wanted from Princess Rose. She had been so consumed with caring for her father that she had no time to lavish on him. During the time Princess Rose had been away, Prince Thorn had met someone else, in fact, several someone else's, as he'd begun to study and was training for a new job, one in which compassion and empathy was required. So one would think Prince Thorn had compassion and empathy, but he'd been lying to the princess. He had no compassion or empathy. One day, when the princess was at home, between her duties of caring for the king, Prince Thorn had to go to a place called Maddington to pick up a laptop because in a fit of rage he'd thrown his against the wall. So he showered and pampered and put on some of his finest garments, and off he went. The next day, Princess Rose went into the prince's chamber and noticed the new laptop was pink. She found this unusual, and upon asking him why would his new work issue him with a pink laptop, he said, well, they don't have much money and rely on donations. This made sense to the princess, and she thought nothing more of it. Now, as you know, after the king's funeral, if you'd listened to part 1 of this story, the prince left the princess with no warning. The princess returned to their castle and saw he was gone. She was distraught. Now she was grieving, not just for the king, but for her prince as well. How could he be so cruel and leave her at such a difficult time in her life? Princess Rose cried and cried and cried. The tears didn't stop, and they kept on coming. In the meantime, the prince was becoming friendly with the Maiden Citrine, whom he worked and studied with. In fact, it was she he had visited in the village of Maddington, and she who had given him the pink laptop. You see, she liked the prince. The prince was playing the victim, and so she had been sticking up for him as well as encouraging him to leave the princess. The prince also had designs on her, but he couldn't admit it, not yet. He had to pretend he was hurt because he was a narcissist, and this was how he was gaining his new supply. You see, his old supply, Princess Rose, was aging and had a few health problems that he just didn't want to deal with. The Maiden Citrine was younger, healthier, and better yet, fertile. Princess Rose had suffered a miscarriage earlier, and even though the prince had told the princess it was okay, he didn't want children, he was lying. He realized he too was aging, and even though he was married in a different way to the norm, those vows meant nothing to him. He wanted children. And so the prince had left without warning, leaving the princess to cry the rivers of tears, so much so that she thought she would drown. And so he was now free to pursue the lust he felt in his loins for the Maiden Citrine, because he could see in her empathy, in her caring and compassion, that he knew he could control and manipulate her. After all, he had already begun his evil quest. He wanted children, and children he would get by hook or by crook. One day, when he went to the old castle, he saw Princess Rose and they had words. "You're the love of my life," he shouted at her at one point. If she was, then why was he leaving? This was yet another lie. Meanwhile, the Maiden Citrine was comforting him as she believed the lies he was spewing to her. She felt so sorry for him. Perhaps he had told her the princess threw the laptop. Perhaps he had told her the princess wanted him gone. After all, he was a master manipulator, a lord of lies, and a verity of a victim. And so he became the victim in all of this. He was the one who was hurt. He was the one who had been kicked out, not. And the maiden believed him. After all, he was spinning his web of prevarications. And so the princess was left to rot in her castle, the princess who had been the love of the prince's life, the prince who didn't value his vows or the beliefs of the princess. Slowly, the prince's charm began to work on the maiden. He won her over, and she didn't care that he'd left his wife, because in her eyes, their marriage had never been real. The 12 years he had been with her weren't real. She'd been conned into believing that the prince was the victim in all of this. If she had known the truth, maybe she would not have succumbed to the prince's lies. Why would she want to be with someone who had left his wife when she needed him the most in her life? Surely she would have realized that the prince would do the same to her. Because he wasn't the victim. He was the perpetrator. He was the manipulator. He was the con man. No self-respecting maiden would lay down on his bed of lies if she knew the truth. Meanwhile, the princess was starting to heal. The tears were receding along with the prince's hairline. The end. We women need to stick together and believe each other. This misogynistic narcissism needs to stop, or we will forever be in the thrall of this evil. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button. Please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification icon to be notified when I upload another video. I want to say thank you for all the subscriptions and place some comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please share it with your friends, in other channels, in other social media groups that you belong in. Blessed be.